Hello, my name is Tera Girardin with Nexus Family Healing, and I'm here with one of our clinical directors, Luke Spiegelhoff, to get his expert insight on self-harm and suicidal ideation. Hello, Luke. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on, Tara.
Yeah, so let's dive right in and start with self-harm. What does that mean, and what are the signs and symptoms?
Yeah, self-harm is usually a product of a person struggling somehow with how they're processing feelings or thoughts, and as a result, they go to injuring themselves somehow. There's usually kind of two different types. One you usually associate more with autism or people that are developmentally delayed, things like head banging, um, scratching themselves, poking their eyes, that type of thing, but it can cause some serious harm at times. And the other type that most people probably associate with self-injurious behavior and self-harm is when someone with under high psychological stress resorts to cutting or injuring themselves somehow on their body to cope with the situation they're dealing with.
Interesting. And so self-harm is different than suicidal ideation then?
Yes, yes. So self-harm, they're actually, it's interesting that they're two both based on experiencing psychological pain, I would call it, some really distressing, overwhelming situation. But usually people who are doing self-injurious behavior are coping with it by producing pain in themselves as a way to control or manage the situation. Whereas people who are having suicidal ideation are thinking the solution for them would be to not be alive, to die, to somehow not exist so that this problem would go away.
So then a person could be self-harming and not have suicidal ideation.
Yeah, by far the vast majority of people who do self-injurious behavior don't have necessarily suicidal ideation. What they're really looking for is a mood shift, if you will. So oftentimes, like youth I work with may experience rejection or have a huge fight with their parents or something like that. And then there's this kind of cycle of shame they go through. They feel awful about what happened or feeling rejected. And they use the cutting as a way to cope with the pain of that situation. And the interesting thing about the cutting itself is that it does actually physiologically work in the sense that when you cause injury to yourself, your brain, or I'm sorry, your body responds by producing endorphins and pain numbing, I call them chemicals, but things in your body to help you feel differently. And that's really what they're looking for. They're looking for a mood shift to stop
Mm.
feeling the way they are. But unfortunately, it leads to this cycle that once they do this, and it works, but then they feel the shame about doing it. And you had mentioned, or we hadn't necessarily talked about, but some of the things that people do to cover it up, they wear long sleeve shirts, pants, they do different things like that to try to hide it because there's a high
Mm.
degree of shame associated with self-injurious behavior.
Yeah, so those are some of the signs. So if you know someone that is cutting or self-harming, what's the best way to talk to them and to help them through that?
Yeah, approach them gently. The last thing you want to do is really go on the offensive and like, what are you doing? Don't you know that you're harming yourself? You're going to scar yourself forever. That's
Yeah.
not the way to approach this. Again, because it could trigger shame for the youth. But just talk about, tell me about this. Tell me what's going on for you that's causing you to want to cut on yourself. And take by far a gentler approach in it is probably best. And then the second piece is really getting help, because I mentioned before that the cutting can be very self-reinforcing. I mean, there is
Mhm.
a physiological change that happens as a result, and that can become very reinforcing. So the cutting becomes more ingrained as a habit to turn to when they're feeling a certain way. And we really don't want to keep heading down that road just because
Yeah.
the more reinforcing it is, the more it's more likely going to occur. And the people, that they can turn to would be people like pediatricians, could be a therapist, or even a school counselor, because those are the people that are going to be able to help have a conversation with your child about this. And because it's not unusual that children aren't going to share certain things with their parents that they
Mhm.
may share with others. And so think of it as a team. You're all on the same team, but people have different roles to help in that.
Right. So it's really important to get some help. Wow, this was really helpful insight to a really difficult
Yeah.
subject, Luke. Appreciate you taking the time today. And if our viewers would like to find more resources, you can go to nexusfamilyhealing.org/resources or click on the link in this post. Thank you so much, Luke.